Hey everybody, this is Sage Valentine, aka Etherblade, and this is my review of Hannibal Season 2, Episode 11, Kono Mano. We have 2 episodes left, and we're getting close to the battle royale between Jack Crawford and Hannibal, and I'm counting down. I can't wait. I'm excited completely for it. So, Kono Mano is a type of seasonal pickled vegetable or vegetables. The episode opens with the Wendigo, and he's like standing there and he sees this steer, and the steer like dies, and out of the steer, out of the womb, pops Will out with the antler ears. We see this bird in glass, and then we see like some type of alcohol being poured into like this glass jar, and the bird basically drowns, and then there's fire. This dish is basically called ortolans, which Brian Fuller said was made with marzipan. It wasn't real, but it looked real to me. And the songbird was drowned in ammiac or inamac or something. And the type of bird that was drowned is basically a rare bird from what they're saying. And Hannibal wanted himself and Will to eat this bird and swallow it whole, bones and all. Gross. And like the way that like he's like consuming it and then Will consumes it, it's something sexual. So once again, just like I said in the last review, it's like a very sexualized scene, like orgasmic almost. I'm like, is it me? Or was that kind of orgasmic? I'm starting to see how all the Fannibals are on like fanfiction.net, and they're like writing all this dirty fan fiction because there's a lot of dirty freaky stuff going on. Hannibal says eating the meal, it like reminds him of the power of life and death. Will says he's euphoric over the death of Freddie Lowndes. Killing is changing the way that he thinks, which we already know that from last episode. So we see somebody like sitting in a parking, like little parking house thingy, and we hear something like rolling down. And for those who are not familiar with the movie Hannibal, the same exact scene happens to the same exact character in the movie. Rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's a body in a wheelchair, and it's like set on fire, and like it keeps going down, and the parking attendant follows it till it stops right in front of Freddie Lowndes' parking space. Michelle Eve, a fellow YouTuber who's probably watching this right now, hey Michelle, she said that Freddie may not be dead, and after seeing this part, I'm starting to think and wonder, like, Will's not that type of killer to me. I don't think Will killed her, so I'm very skeptical of this episode because of Michelle and a couple of other viewers who commented on the video last week. They basically go through the dental and everything, and the FBI finds out that it is Freddie Lowndes dead, and she died, like she was killed before catching on fire. They say that Freddie had a longing to be noticed. The muscles in her legs were cut with a hunting knife. I guess that's why she couldn't move or get herself up. And Freddie Lowndes had to burn. She was fuel. She won't rise from the ashes, but her killer will. He's the one to be noticed. So we find out that the reason why Margot basically went to bed with Will last week was to get herself pregnant so that she could have an heir. But the way she reacts to it is just like, Will is just like, is a ball full of emotions. He's kind of like, on the one hand, he's kind of like freaked out about having a kid. On the other hand, he's a little bit, euphoric about it. But then he's still kind of freaked out either way you look at it. Margot's just like, whatever. The child could have a male influence. Let's just go on from there. I'm like, wow. I was like, wow. I was like, what is Brian Fuller trying to say about single mothers in this episode? Just kidding. Hannibal acts like he didn't know this whole thing. We all know Hannibal knew about this, but I love how he acts like, oh, I'm just finding this out myself. Hannibal, you're always one step above or in front of everybody in the episode usually. So, like I said, Margot says she's not opposed to a male influence. In other words, she'll raise this kid by herself. Will won't even be a part of it. Will's by himself either way. In either way, no matter what happens in this season, I guess in next season, because newsflash, the show was picked up for season 3. Whoop, whoop. So either way, he's basically by himself. But he does have Hannibal sometimes. So there's a class trip at Mason's house. And Mason sees this little boy walking behind all the other kids. He gives him a carrot, starts talking something about he can't go back to his mother and the cat and the other lady. And the little boy starts crying. And he said, you know, you have to go away. The boy's crying. He takes the tears, like, gets it with, like, some gauze or, like, a thing of paper towel. Takes the tear, drops it in, like, a martini with an olive on the side, and, like, drinks it. Just when I thought Mason's brand of crazy couldn't get any worse. I'm like, so that's what he was doing in that episode when Margot sort of appeared a couple episodes ago. Someone on Facebook called it a tear-teeny, so hashtag tear-teeny. Will has this bad dream. He sees Freddie Lounge's body riding down the hill, completely engulfed in flames. He's all sweaty. He's freaking out. This really, 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 really makes me skeptical as to whether or not he killed Freddie Lounge, because we haven't really seen Will kill anybody, but like anytime he's around death, especially in season 1, if you haven't watched that, definitely catch up on that. In season 1, whenever something happened, somebody died, he would always have like a weird premonition or a weird dream about it. So I'm still skeptical as to whether she's dead as of this episode. So Alana goes to see him. She said it's not a friendly visit. She's worried that he killed Freddie Lounge. He's like, what do you think? She's set that he killed him. Alana's just like anti-Will this season. And some people on Facebook and on Twitter were saying, well, you know, you can't really fault her because of what Hannibal's telling her. I can. Because she was Will's big cheerleader in the beginning, and then she just flipped the script when she started having sex with him, so it kind of threw me off just a little bit, you know. But Will tries to throw her off and says, you know, no one would believe you if you said that I was a killer. He's like, because no one believed me when I said that Hannibal was a killer. He says that, you know, Hannibal is bad. She tries to say that, you know, Hannibal's bad for him, and he's just like, oh yeah, he's bad for me, but he's good for you. I was like, touche, Will, touche. He's like, you should be afraid. And he gives Alana this gun, tells her, you know, what to practice, do whatever, but whoever is scaring you, is making you afraid, use this gun, practice with the gun, get yourself together to protect yourself. So Mason goes to see Hannibal, and it's like basically a waste of time because it's like Mason telling, you know, a story, some type of weirdo story, some type of pedophile act that he did with one of the kids or something at the camp that his father ran, and he had to do 500 hours of community service or something. And I was like, I was just as annoyed as Hannibal was. I'm like, what does this have to do with this? Like, to be honest, it seems like Mason Verger is only going to see Hannibal to get some info out of him. And boy, does he get some info, because he starts talking about something about the father being able to look at a man and see weakness. Hannibal runs and mentions indirectly that Margot is pregnant. I'm like, damn, so Margot is like right on the radar at this point. Like, because Mason's like, I'm the sole heir. And he's like, no, well, biologically, there's a descendant. Like, Hannibal, what are you doing? Once again, puppet master, Hannibal. So anyway, Alana goes to the funeral of Freddie Lounge. Will is there. She's kind of pissed off to see Will there. Will's like, it's common for a killer to revisit his victims after death. And he's upset because Alana's like basically profiling him at the funeral. He said that he's there because Hannibal said it would be therapeutic. He's upset more about being a father in this scene than being a killer, which I can kind of understand what he means in that scene, though. But Hannibal is talking to Will. He says he had a sister, and the sister taught him a lot. Her name is Misha. Abigail reminded him a lot of her. Will asks, Hannibal says, what happened to Abigail had to happen. And he says something like, there was, but there isn't now. Will says he's still having He's still having dreams, you know. He dreamed those same fish dreams about teaching Abigail how to fish in the middle of the pond or the lake. And he sheds a tear, and Hannibal says, "I'm sorry that I took that from you. I wish I could give it back." Now, it's the first it's the first time I see, you know, or we witness Hannibal being sentimental, but I don't buy it. I mean, he does show, like, the human side of himself to Will, but in that instance, I don't buy it. I'm like, this is just me, but I don't buy it. I'm like, Hannibal still. Then again, no, I don't buy it. Not at all. So he starts talking about breaking teacups when he's angry, but he's not satisfied when the teacup doesn't gather itself up. He says, someday a cup will come together. And then we see this beautiful visual of this cup, like, breaking on the floor, and then it becomes whole. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Then we have a commercial. So those two together, like, sitting together is like some weird murder club, and it's strange to me. But now I see why a lot of fannibals write dirty fan fiction and stuff like that, write these dirty things on Tumblr. Because there's a lot to work with in these episodes. Like, there's some weird psychosexual thing going on between Will and Hannibal. Without touching. Without any type of penetration. Just something weird going on with them. It's like, it's freaky. And there's a lot to work with in this. So, seeing Will cry is just, it's very, very heartbreaking. So, somebody took Freddie Lounge's body out the ground and made her look like Shiva or Kali, the goddesses. And basically this scene deals with Alana making the correlation that whoever killed Freddie Lounge killed Randall Tier. That person, who's a psycho in her eyes, has a benefactor, and apparently that benefactor dug up the body, set it up the way it is, as like a courtship to the actual killer, i.e. Will and Hannibal. But she doesn't come out and say it, but she basically keeps giving Will the evil eye, so Will kind of knows where she's going with this. Mason Verger knows that his sister is pregnant, but he doesn't come out and tell her. He does this whole rigmarole about talking about the next generation of Verger men, and talks about his education in meat. He says something about wanting to have a baby Verger. But it sounds to me, and maybe I could be wrong, but it seemed like he was going to, like, impregnate his sister. And I'm like, that's... But then, as crazy as he is, I wouldn't like, put incest too far past him. But, he sees, like, the pregnancy glow in his sister, and he's like enraged and like grabs her by the hair, and it's like it's clear that she knows like he's after her, he's gonna try to kill her and probably try to kill this kid. So Hannibal reveals to Will that he sacrificed Abigail because he cared about her as much or even more as Will did, or even more than Will. And I think Will mentioned something about God, and Hannibal says, how much has God sacrificed? So we know Hannibal's a non-believer in God. That's a given. Will said he prayed he'd see Hannibal again, and Hannibal said, you've lost a child, Will. Seems like you're likely to gain one. Call me crazy, but Hannibal sounds a little bit jealous, but then a little bit boastful, but then a little bit like, you might get one, or you might have gotten a kid if I hadn't told Mason Verger. So in the middle of these two, you see the Wendigo. It's about 10 feet high with like 8 arms. Mason, at this point in the episode, is cuckoo crazy. He starts telling Hannibal some story about some swine fairs and how his father stabbed these cute little, some type of pigs, but they're very friendly pigs, and he would stab them with a stick as deep as necessary to test the thickness of their skin. He starts talking about a male heir as his descendant, and he knows that, I think Hannibal mentions the male heir as that will end up being Mason's descendant. And Mason starts talking about how his sister is very vigilant and she will get pregnant by any means necessary, I guess. And the only problem about that is an heir only takes over if he dies. So Alana's skeptical of Hannibal. She's paranoid, but out of sheer ignorance, she basically tells Hannibal how she feels and how Will's like pressuring her to believe something that's not real, and she's questioning the treatment. She feels empty, questioning everything, like she's giving blood, and I'm just like, Alana, you are really not safe. And Hannibal takes her hand, he sniffs her hand, he could smell the gunpowder. I'm like, there Hannibal goes again. One step above everybody else. So Margot packs her stuff up, she drives away, and her car is hit by a truck. And who pops out of the truck but Carlo, the stable dude? And I'm just like, damn, man. So we end up seeing Margot lying on the table. I guess she has anesthesia. They gave it to her. They gave her something so she won't move. Basically, Mason tells her that she's getting a hysterectomy because there's something wrong with her female parts. And I'm just like, oh, man, Margot. Damn. So Alana's talking to Jack, and she says that she knows he's lying. She knows that Will is lying to him. Hannibal's lying to him, and he is lying to them. She's like, you are lying to each other, and they're lying to you. It's like, you think you've moved the pieces around so cleverly. And Alana's like, you don't know Hannibal or Will, you're going to lose. Jack takes her into another room and sees Freddie Lounge standing up there, alive. So Michelle, Eve, you were 100% correct. Freddie Lounge is alive. I kind of figured, I'm not even going to say I kind of figured. I was just like, why would Will become a killer? Last week I was on that thing like I didn't sign up for his brand of crazy, but I'm so glad he didn't kill her. I'm so glad that you were right, Michelle Eve. Will sees Margot cut up and is passed out in the room there with Hannibal. And Hannibal's there basically to console him. But Will ends up just leaving the room because Will, I guess he either, in my opinion, he gets an inkling that perhaps maybe he knows that Hannibal did something and that's how that baby died, but it doesn't say, or that's how she basically either lost the baby or lost her lady parts, but he doesn't come out and say it. And I really honestly believe that he was jealous of the baby and doesn't want anyone or anything taking away Will's attention from him. That's probably, now that I think of it, that's probably why he went to bed with Alana, to keep Alana on his side so she'd hate Will so he'd have more time with Will. Yeah. So anyway, Will goes to Mason's, to the Verger estate, kills Will goes to the Verger estate. He takes out Carlo. He goes for Mason. Mason has the coolest line. He's like, "You must be the baby daddy." I was dying. Will knocked the hell out of him in that scene. And his nose started bleeding, and he's like taking his nose, looking at the blood and licking it. I was like, first tears, now blood. What else do you consume, Mason Verger? Ugh. So anyway, Will basically tells him, listen, the only thing you, me, and your sister have in common is we have the same psychiatrist. And if Dr. Lecter had his druthers, you'd be wrapped around, did he say a bullet? If he said something different, everyone, just let me know. But I could have sworn he said something about a bullet. And he said, by the way, Dr. Lecter is who you want to feed to your pigs. And that's the end of the episode. We have 2 more episodes left, and I'm sure the next one is going to be fantastically crazy. And as you all know, as I've been saying since I started these reviews, I am all here for it. I'm going to be so sad to see the show end, but I'm so happy it gets another season. Thank you all for tuning in. Definitely check out my links. Check out my other reviews. Unfortunately, Believe was canceled, so now I only have a few reviews. Definitely check out my review of 24, Survivor, Hannibal, of course, and Mad Men. And I'm probably going to do one for Rosemary's Baby as well. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the last few minutes of Friday. And happy Mother's Day to all. And I'll be back with my review of Rosemary's Baby. So take care. Kick butt. Take names. This is Sage Valentine. I'm going to have a kick-ass weekend because I'm going to a kick-ass event tomorrow, which I'm doing a kick-ass video for. So thank you all. Love you all. Bye, guys. Bye.